Welcome back, everyone. It is 9:32 this morning, and we are spending this entire hour talking about school shootings. This topic brings up very passionate feelings. In this hour, we're trying to look at all sides of the issue.
Now, in the course of this debate, you may have heard this quote: "The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun." Now, of course, that's a one-line oversimplification of a school of thought that basically says allowing more people to carry guns everywhere is a deterrent to gun violence.
One of the leading voices for that position is John Lott, president of the Crime Prevention Research Center and author of several books, including The War on Guns and More Guns, Less Crime. Dr. Lott joins us now from Washington, D.C. to chime in and give us his perspective. Good morning to you, Doctor.
Good morning.
You say having more people with guns is more of a solution than gun control. Why do you say that, sir?
Well, the types of proposals that have been put forward, like background checks on private transfers, or, we can talk about some of the other ones. It's hard to see any of the mass public shootings this century that would have been stopped as a result of something like that. What we do see, though, time after time, is that these attacks, almost all of them, have one thing in common. That is, they keep occurring in places where general citizens are banned from having guns. That was true last Wednesday. All the mass public shootings in Florida have had that same characteristic. And 98% of the mass public shootings nationwide since 1950 have occurred in those types of areas. You read the diaries, other statements that these killers have left, and time after time they explain why they pick the particular targets that they do. They want to pick a target where they don't believe that somebody will be able to be there quickly with a gun, because they realize that the sooner that somebody can be there with a gun to stop them, the less carnage that they're going to be able to commit. And
Sir,
you see that?
just talked about.
Go ahead.
You just talked about how, in the end, what comes to light here is that a lot of these gunmen or killers leave behind a diary, or they leave behind evidence. In this recent case, there were social media postings. We just talked about wives. In his case, there were YouTube videos, suicidal thoughts. Do you think that maybe social media could come into play when it comes to these background checks, that federal agencies should look into that first?
Well, you can try to do things like that. I guess my concern is most of these people, as nutty as they might be, tend to be pretty smart. And if you say you're going to start looking at those types of things to do those types of checks, they'll likely change their behavior. But, if you really believe that somebody is a danger to others, a background check isn't enough. You really need to consider, locking them up in some way, because it's relatively easy, not only for people to get illegal drugs, but to go and the same people who sell illegal drugs sell guns. And so just having some type of, constraint on them being able to legally get a gun isn't going to stop them from doing these types of attacks.
Dr. Lott, when you hear people say that, look, other developing nations, or rather other developed nations and other civilized nations don't have this problem. They don't have these kinds of things happening in those nations. And the reason they don't is because there's no access. Okay, and your response is?
They do. Look at France. France had more casualties from mass public shootings in just 1 year, 2015, than the United States had over the entire 8 years of the Obama administration. And that's a country 1/5 our population. You have to adjust for population too, though in France they still have more even not adjusting for it. But you can't compare countries that are 4 or 8 million in population with a country that's 320 million. If you look at the European Union as a whole, during the entire 8 years of the Obama administration, the casualties from mass public shootings for the European Union per capita was 50% higher than it is in the United States. And once you get outside of the United States and Europe, mass public shootings are very common. They're much, much, much higher rates. Africa, Asia, other parts of the world have rates that can be, 5, 6, 8 times higher than what we have per capita here in the United States.
All right, John.
They just don't get news coverage.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your perspective, sir, and we appreciate you joining us here on Good Day LA.